Okay, we're walking over here to the vehicle. And you see, we got the Actron hooked up. And let me get in here. Okay, let's get this thing hooked up. Be right back. Okay, we got the car running right now. Man, it's running kind of bad. You know what? What I want to do here first is let's check out what's going on with the computer's reading. And there we go. We got a check engine light on. Okay, let's see what this check engine light is on for. I'll go down to codes. Read codes. Okay, we got a P0300 random cylinder misfire. Yeah, I kind of sensed that, man, the way that thing was just running. All right, now a random cylinder misfire. That's kind of a hard code to diagnose when you're not familiar with it. Luckily, we're Astral, so we are. All right, the first thing I want to do is you want to go back to the data stream. Let's see what this computer is reading. That's very important. Okay, linked up. It's hooking up. Now, in order for a car to run like this, either it's bad spark plug wires, coolant sensor, a lot of issues. So what I want to do first here is I want to see what the coolant sensor is reading. And we go down here to the coolant sensor. It's reading 129 degrees, which is good. You know, that's pretty good. It's a cold vehicle. Let's scroll down. There's our problem right there. That is very important. You want to make sure you look at the long-term LT fuel trim. That's at 30. Now I'm going to explain that to you in a second. All right, that's definitely our issue. Let me hook this camera back up, and you know, babe, I think I can explain it to you now. Now, in a good long-term fuel trim is about 0 to -4. If the computer senses a vacuum leak, that number goes up to about 30. The more the leak, the more the vacuum leak, the more air coming into the system, the higher that number goes, up to 30. Now, the more gas, that if this car is flooding out or something, this number is going to go down, negative numbers. And right now we're down at negative 30, which means this computer is trying to lean this car out. It's saying, wait a minute, I'm getting too much gas here. I'm trying my best to lean it out, and the car's running kind of bad. So let's go out here and see what's going on here. First thing I want to do is look over here. Bingo, right there. Look at that. That there, my friends, is called the fuel pressure regulator. If the fuel pressure regulator is not allowing the fuel to return back to the gas tank, see, like for instance, if this car is set at supposed to run at 30 psi of fuel pressure, the fuel pressure regulator, anything above 30 psi, it lets it go back into the gas tank. If not, it's going to flood this engine out and cause this thing to run bad, just like it's doing. And as you can see, that thing is definitely no good. That is definitely leaking some fuel right there. That's a fire hazard. Now, along with this, being that there's so much fuel going down into the cylinders, more than likely this car is going to have an oil change, because all that gas is mixing with the oil. So we need to change that also. So, you know, and eventually she's probably going to need some wires. If you look at that, let's see a little mark right there. Look for wires that's close to metal. If you see it, that means sometimes that spark is jumping out from the wire to the side. But that's not her issue right now. Her main issue is that fuel pressure regulator. Let's set this camera back up. Okay, as you can see here, I kind of already started. I disconnected the mass airflow sensor, and what we're going to do is remove the box, the top of the air filter housing. Move the air charge temperature sensor, move that, disconnect that. We're going to start, and a good thing when you're doing a car is start from one point and work your way around to get everything off. Take it off, and then we're going to get to that regulator. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, let's start by disconnecting, taking off this air cleaner. You can see it's not all that bad. It's a lot of wirings. Let's take off the accelerator cable. That's going to come with that. Let's get this wiring harness out of here. Now, good idea. This is a good idea. Disconnect the negative terminal on the battery because we're going to be disconnecting the alternator, disconnecting the harness over here. All right, let's get that battery disconnected, the negative terminal, and get that harness disconnected. Bear back. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is tensioner is down there. We're going to take the belt off. Now, don't take the belt off completely. Just take it off from right here where the alternator is, so we can get that out of the way. And then there's a bolt right there. See that bolt? Take that out because this bracket is going to hold up the intake. While you're at it, this little vacuum line right here. We're going to get a screwdriver and pop that off. See where it goes, just swing that out to the side. We might be able to leave the bolt on the alternator and get that intake out of there. But let's check that out. All right, let's get that belt off. As you can see, got my tool in there. Get the belt off. Let the belt hang there. Leave the tool right up there. Now we're gonna get that bolt out right there. Looks like that's a 15 millimeter. You don't gotta take the bolt out all the way. Just bring it out just enough so we can get that bracket out of there. Perfect. Now, let's get the screwdriver over here. take off this hose. Okay. Let's get you at a better angle over here so you can see what's going on. Okay, let me set that up, be right back. Okay. While we're over here, let's get that bracket over there. 13mm nut. Take the nut off. Bracket comes right out of there. Let's leave that right there. Next, right above it, nut with a stud. Same size, 13mm. And that's actually that's our first intake bolt. Now to remember that that goes to the corner, what we're going to do is put that bolt just like that. And we know that's right at the corner. Let's work our way around now. Next thing, it looks like we got the map sensor. But before we move the map sensor, we got that little harness connected over there. Get that harness out of the way. That. Alright, let's get that map sensor out of there. And now some really small bolts. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, got the map sensor right here. 2 bolts on each side. There's a plug underneath, and you can see right there, it's got a little vacuum hose. So when you unbolt that, you're gonna pull it back and make sure you get a screwdriver to pull that back with it. All right, let's get that. Once you get that off, you have 2 10mm bolts right there and right there. That's holding on the ignition module. So let's get that done, and we'll be right back. Okay, next, so you see, we got the map sensor out of the way. Vacuum, be careful of this. Don't try to bend that or break that in any kind of way. There's the plug. The next we're gonna do, as we walk around, this harness is close, but we're gonna be able to get that out of there. The next thing you're gonna do, you got, just like I said, 2 10mm bolts, 1 and 2. That's going to the ignition control, the module and the coil packs. Let's get that out of the way so we can work our way around to the next bolts. Okay, once you get those 2 10s out of the way, you got 2 13s right here and right there. That'll complete that intake part, the side of the intake. And then if you want, you got 3 of them over here. 1, 2, and 3. So let's take those, the rest of the intake bolts out, and take off the bolts to that coil packs, and I'm gonna show you a little trick. Okay, we got the bolts out of the intake, and we got the 2 bolts out of the coil. Now here's a little trick. Usually a lot of people will go around there and try to feel for the bolts, to take off the bolts on the coil packs. What you want to do is take a rag, move that harness to the side. You stick the rag down there. Make sure the rag is on top of the valve cover. Get you a pry bar. Pry it back. Just that simple. That's all you need. You don't need much clearance. See that? Clear it right away. Intake's ready to come right up out of there. Look at that. Alright, let's go to the other side. holding this intake up. Main thing is, okay, let's spin this out of the way a little bit. You have one 10mm bolt right there. See that bolt? Okay, that bolt is holding this pipe, holding pipe into the EGR valve. Alright, you want to take that off. Now, this has antifreeze lines going to the bottom of the throttle body. Alright, but we're not going to do that. Because, you know, why messed up that and let antifreeze come all over the place? What we're going to do is unbolt the throttle body and swing the throttle body forward and take the intake right up out of there. Alright, first of all, remember, now you're not removing the bolts to the EGR valve. You're not removing those. You're removing one to the EGR pipe. Okay? Let's get that one bolt out of there. Then I want you to unplug that. And you got little connections here. Now see this little connection here? Just push that little tab right there. Push the tab down. Pull it right out. Okay? Let's get that bolt over there and get this unplugged. Be right back. Okay. Got them both unplugged. We took the one bolt out. We set it up here. Next, now this pipe is flexible, so it moves out the way with no problem at all. Next, we're going to do is 4 bolts on the throttle body. Okay, this is lucked out on this one. This one has 3 bolts, 3 nuts on the throttle body, and at the same time, what we have to do is take off these 2 10mm bolts on top because it's bolted to the throttle body and to the intake itself. Next, on these wires, let's see, to make this a lot easier for us to get all this out of the way, we're gonna take these wires off, and you see how they're going to this bracket. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We know they're in line. So what we're going to do here is pop them off because they go right in the order. Now, let me show you something. You know what? Just so your wires doesn't have that bracket on there, let me show you what you could do. Be right back. Okay. From the wire closest to you. Now, actually, let's start from the top. So that's going to be number 1. We just took this one off. Let's put 2 little marks on this one. And then this one, we'll put 3 little marks. So that way, if yours ain't set up as good as mine is right here, you know exactly which ones, how they go back, in which order. Take those wires off. Swing the whole harness to the side. Now we got even better look at the intake. Okay, let's get those bolts at that intake on the throttle body. Okay, we got the bolts of the intake off, the throttle body. We got the throttle body just swinging to the side. Gasket's still intact and all. I'm going to take up the PCV valve. And let's try to pick this up. Yeah, here we go. Alright, let's set this camera up. Alright. Now, got a hose over here on the fuel pressure regulator. Pop that up. Wow, look at that. inside there. Okay, yes. All that gas up in there. Alright, we got everything disconnected. Lift the intake up. There we go. Let's get a rag here. And I'm going to show you all that gas. Let's put this over to the side. Okay, there's the fuel pressure regulator right there. We got, you know, the throttle body is a little in the way, but we can swing by that. I'm not worried about that at all. Alright, got the old plenum gasket. They got little tabs in them. See it? And then what we're going to do, get a little hand scraper. We're going to scrape them off. But before we do that, let's get a wrench and break the nut loose right there before we actually take it out. Take the thing out with the Torx. All right, let's get a wrench for that. Okay, I'm gonna try to do this with one hand. What we have down here, a 15/16 bolt nut right there. Okay, now what we're gonna do is break that loose, so that once you break it loose, it'll come on hand. Now there's probably still gas in there, so it's probably a good idea to let's go over here where the intake is. I want to let you know what I did also right here. You see how I got these bolts laid out? I laid them out how they go on the intake. That's where the alternator is. Next up, those two and that. Lay them out so you put them exactly back the way you took them out. Then I know we got right here the map sensor. Then we got the intake. All right, let's get back over here. All right, let's set this rag. On there like that. There you go. Both dropped. Next, what we're going to do is get your ratchet. Now you need a Torx socket. It's a 30mm. I mean, a 30 Torx. Swing your throttle body out of the way. I'm trying to do it. Looks a little difficult for me because I'm holding a camera and doing it at the same time. Pop that, unscrew that nut, unscrew that bolt. Now once it gets real easy to turn like that, you know pretty much you can take that out by hand. Yeah, if it wants to come out. Set that bolt up here where the other ones are. So that's all for the throttle. All the bolts right there, that's for the throttle body. Then I'm gonna wiggle this out. Let me set this down, set the camera down, I'll be right back. Okay, I got a little close up on that. I'm gonna show you, I had to use two hands on this. Now there's O-rings in there, so you just gotta wiggle that out, turn it, pick it up. There's your fuel pressure regulator. Alright, we're going to set that down right there. Let's go get the new one. Okay, here we got the new fuel pressure regulator. I just put a little dab of white lithium on the outside. It makes it easier to install. I like to do that with O-rings so that it won't break. Now there's an O-ring on the inside, but I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is, my hand still got a little bit out there. I'm going to put it on the tube coming up. Right there. Okay, now let's see if you got a good look at this. Okay. First thing you're going to do is put it down on the pipe. Perfect. Let's get that out of the way. We don't need that no more. And we're not going to need the rag anymore. Now it's a good thing right now to start the threading. Don't tighten it up, just start it. So that way it's easy to catch when you are ready to tighten it up. Okay, now you turn it and slowly put that right in there, just like that. Don't tighten up that bottom one yet. Let's get this bolt back into the new one. Let's tighten that up. Now, go to the bottom. Now it's not super tight, because remember, you got that O-ring inside, so that's what's really sealing it, not this. This is just holding it in place. But put a little tension on it. Done. Okay, next what we're gonna do, this part you gotta be very careful. Now I'm going to set this camera up the best way I can to show you this, but we're going to be removing the old gasket, but you got to be careful not to let any of the gasket drop down into those ports. Okay, you definitely don't want to do that. So I'm not going to even attempt this with one hand. So I'm going to set the camera up. Okay, show you how it's done. First, remember the tabs I was telling you about. I'm going to take those tabs up first with as much gasket as possible. Get you a rag or something. Now, only thing you got is these little parts. And what you're going to do is get you a razor blade. Be right back. Okay, so what we're going to do here. Get yourself a razor blade and scrape it, the rest of it off. Me, what I like to do, sometimes these gaskets get really up there. Take a rag, stick it down in the port. And get the scraper. And scrape the gasket off. you can see, this thing can be very stubborn at times. Now we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Then I'm going to show you how to clean that up. Be right back. Okay, we got the compressor going. What we're going to do is take a little surface grinder and lightly go over each of the ports. Lightly. As you can see, everything nice and clean. The surface on all of them. Okay. Now let's get that new plenum gasket up here. Be right back. Okay. We got the new gaskets right here. Now these gaskets, as I said before, they got little tabs on them. Right there and right there. And they set right up on the intake. And right there and right there. So all you gotta do is line them up. Push the tabs. Oh, there's one way on that one. Gotta make sure all the holes line up. Push the tabs down and done. No sealer, no nothing. Make sure you do that. Well, make sure you don't do that. Alright, let's get this other one installed over here. Yeah. Right there. Perfect. I got a new fuel pressure regulator up there, new gaskets. We're ready to pop this intake back on, but before we do that, we can go over here to the intake. Matter of fact, what I'm gonna do here, let's I want to get a rag. We're gonna wipe this out inside there a little bit. But also what we're gonna do is turn it over. I'm just gonna do a light surface cleanup on that. Alright, let's do that surface cleanup, clean it up, and then when we come back, we'll be setting the intake back down. Be right back. Okay, we got the intake cleaned up, lower and upper. And what I'm gonna do is set the camera right here so you get a good look at this. Now, let's set that intake back up there. Be very careful setting this down. You don't want to mess up those gaskets down there. Once you get it lined up, what you want to do is take the 3 intake bolts in the front and just put them in by hand. Now let's get the back 3 in. Remember, on the back 3, the one to the alternator has that one. The center one has this bracket, and it goes down just like this. That's for the map sensor. Then the front one doesn't have anything. Okay, let's get those bolts tightened down. 13 millimeter, let's get them tightened down. Okay, those bolts are tightened up. Next, make this simple for us. Let's get this, let's back this up. Let's get this PCV valve installed. Vacuum hose to the pressure regulator. Keep this out of the way. Let's get this pipe over here. Remember this pipe? It bends, goes into a hole down there for the EGR. It's kind of hard for me to do this with holding the camera, but let's get that bolt down in there and tighten it up. Then what I want you to do is, see how I'm doing that right there? Swing that back over and put the bolts back in the coil packs. Alright, let's do that and we'll be right back. Okay, we had to take a little break. It started raining. As you can see, I'm inside the truck. Let's see what I stopped now. We did. We just drained the oil out. The old oil filter looks like it's a federated. That's good. Fisher Auto Parts, because that's who we had deliver the parts here. And we got 10W30 federated oil. Okay, we just put 4 quarts in. It takes about 4.5. As you can see, we couldn't film this part because it started really pouring. But we like the mailman. Rain, snow, sleet. Alright, this car with a new oil filter takes 4.5. We put 4. We're just going to take a half of this quart and put in there. And then we're going to start this vehicle up, put the computer on it, and see what our fuel trim is reading, and make sure everything is good. Alright, let's hurry and get that done before it starts raining. I'm going to set the camera, I'm going to put the camera back up, let the car down, and we'll be right back. Okay, we got the camera, got the oil change done. Starting to rain again. Fuel pressure regulator is on. Let's get in the car. We got it hooked up. We cleared the codes out. Start it up. Oh, listen to that car sound. Listen. Okay. I don't care how it's running though. What we want to do is go back to the data stream. Okay, view data. Hopefully you don't get a glare on this. Let's get the entire list. Coolant's at 88. Let's see here. Can you see this better? Alright, all I need to do is scroll down. I want to go down and see fuel trim. There you go. There you go. That's the fuel trim we're looking at. Now if you go back to our other video, it was down to 30. Alright, because the computer was trying to lean this out. There was so much gas being dumped in here. And now, perfect response. Everything's good. Fuel trims. Now fuel trim's actually going to go down to 0. It's going to be about 0, -1, but that's a really, yeah, there it is. See, it's dropping. It's a really good range right there. Let's go out there and take a look at that fuel pressure regulator. Make sure we ain't leaking no gas. That dry as anything. Perfect job. All right, we did the oil change. It's starting to rain more. So what we're gonna do here is, see, they got a sticker up here, oil change sticker. We're gonna remove that. We're gonna put one of our own up there. All right, that is one beautiful job. All right, let's unhook our computer. Shut the vehicle off.